consensus and pull his colleagues along with him. Justice Madlanga's jurisprudence is a masterclass in legal reasoning, social justice, and constitutional fidelity. His judgments have not only clarified the law, but have actively dismantled systemic injustices, ensuring that the Constitution's promise of dignity, equality, and freedom is realized for all.
The Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber in the Eastern Cape says there will be crisis should the U.S. impose 30% tariffs on South African vehicle exports. The country is among more than 180 countries in the final negotiations with the U.S. ahead of the 1st August deadline. CEO Denise van Heesteen says they're in distress.
One needs to understand that the automotive domestic market hasn't really grown. Pre-COVID levels, it stood at around 615,000 vehicles. Last year, 515,000. So the market's not growing, and then you're also seeing cheap imports coming into the market. We are in a crisis situation, and it's a combination of factors. We've had enabling environment issues that affect manufacturing because you need reliable power, water, infrastructure, and services.
The World Food Programme has warned that drastic cuts to humanitarian aid in northeastern Nigeria have left more than 1 million displaced people at the mercy of militant groups. The BBC's Anne Soy has the details.
They are mostly farmers who fled from militants, abandoning their farms and homes. The World Food Programme says it has run out of money to feed them. Malnutrition rates are already soaring. The medical charity MSF says more than 600 children have died from it this year in the region. The biggest donor, the US, is urging other nations to step up. The Nigerian government has set up a board to battle malnutrition, but it's not clear if it can fill the gap.
Recapping the top story, Gauteng Police Commissioner Tommy Mtombeni says they are working closely with their counterparts in KwaZulu-Natal to dismantle criminal syndicates operating in the two provinces. I'm Wandela Mbana for SFM News Headlines at 1:30.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Atlas Lions are roaring to grab a win in their tournament opener. Meanwhile, the Angolans refuse to bite the dust. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Morocco versus Angola this Sunday, 3 August at 5 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival, where music, culture and community come alive. Tune in to Seasons with KG Mwekezi and the soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay, coming to you live from the Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. on the 2nd of August 2025. Come and vibe to Sunel musician Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zingu Malo, Trompis and many more. More than music, share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
What a beautiful song. It's a song that just says it's a Friday, but it's not a Friday. It's a Thursday. Welcome to the Full Circle. And looking at what's coming up, we're going to talk about money. We're all talking about money. How much have you got? Is it sufficient? It is the end of the month. And when it goes, are you confident that it's going to stay? Or is it one of those feelings where after about an hour, 3 hours, then you hear, it's a chaotic ring where all everybody that you owe is taking their money. Can be quite a bit of a problem. But anyway, let's take a look at what's coming up on the show. Hashtag July Savings Month. What happens when the financial system breaks? That's going to be our first conversation. And I'll be talking to Lutando Mzilikazi, founder of Money Views and Inland Regional Manager of an investment management. And also I've got Lebogang Tobagale, Financial Crime Compliance Specialist. And we are going to zone into what then happens when the system breaks. Oh, you know those moments when you're trying to do a transaction, it's end of the month and you want to pay who you owe, that you specify that on such and such a day I will pay, and the system just freezes on you and you don't know what's going on. Or actually your bank calls you and says, we've got a problem with the system. What then happens? And of course, we've got cyber crime that's also rampant. What then happens? We'll get to unpack all that when we get to that conversation. Also coming up on the show, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz returning this September with yet another amazing lineup. And we're going to speak to head of Standard Bank sponsorship, that's Desiree Poe. And then the second hour of the show, hashtag Legal Corner. Director at Dubazana Attorneys in Tabiseng Dubazana will be chatting to us. Now, I'm sure everyone has been waiting to hear the outcome of a court ruling. Reaction on the constitutional court ruling of Makate versus Vodacom. I thought it was about time. I thought it was going to be, ruled in his favor. It's been over 2 decades. What is going on? Oh, the poor guy has to deal with, his legal fees and more. But then maybe there could be a bright side to the story. But anyway, we get to unpack that story. That will be later on in the show as well. Prenup warning for anyone looking to get married in South Africa. That's another subject matter. We'll be talking about that. Make sure you do call us and engage. And it will be interesting to hear your views. You know that I am so opinionated and I try by all means not to share my views and my opinions. Give us a call on 086 000 2032 or send us a voice note on 061 410 4107. And then the last lap of the show, that will be around 20 to 3. Who is Kipi Mweketsi? We're going to talk to Sipo Hot Six Mabuse, who's a musician, as well as Simpiwe Mhlambi, jazz and documentary photographer. So that's all coming up on the show on The Full Circle.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent, and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. Hashtag your screen, your story. Together, we make it happen.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
What did it say in terms of the how? So one thing is you're saying they found out that some parents are encouraging corporal punishment. I can tell you now there are many people, even at my age, who say, well, you see, those days we got a puck and it somehow worked out anyway, right?
When you become a teacher, you are given a certificate confirming that you can now teach, and you sign a code of ethics. In that code of ethics, you confirm that you will uphold the highest professional standards. If you go against that, then you must be dealt with. But also there are incidents where criminal charges can be pressed. In fact, there are incidents where teachers have been jailed for severe injuries arising from corporal punishment.
Elijah Mklanga, National Spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
The Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, in collaboration with the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gauteng Provincial Government, Standard Bank South Africa and Absa Bank, invites you to the Empower Her market, celebrating women's economic power on the 1st of August 2025 at the Sandton Convention Centre. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, Women Leading the Future of Trade. Tune into The Talking Point as we shine a spotlight on women, that's women entrepreneurs, as powerful drivers of South Africa's economy. Basadi, where are you? Women, where are you? Rikaofela Basadi.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
And now let's get into our conversation about money. What happens when the financial system breaks? So South Africa's financial system is often hailed as one of the most sophisticated on the continent. But what happens when that very system begins to falter? From high-profile bank collapses, grey listing by global financial watchdogs, to rising levels of fraud, cybercrime, and increasing pressure on consumers due to inflation and debt. The warning signs are all there. It is just bleeding red. So today we unpack what a, breakdown in the financial system could mean for the average South African, from access to savings, pensions, and credit, to the ripple effects on jobs, investments, and economic growth. It is a lot to unpack in a short space of time, but I suppose we'll get the best that we can get out of it. And I do have my experts in the studio. These are financial experts. I've got Luthando Mzilikazi, founder of Money Views and Inland Regional Manager of Investment Management, in the studio. Good to have you on the show.
Always good to be back, Bertha.
And I've also got Lebogang Tobagale, Financial Crime Compliance Specialist, with me as well in the studio. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me to the family.
Thank you for coming. This is quite something else. Finances, too tight to mention, but look, this does happen. Cybercrime also on the rampant. What then happens? Maybe I should start with you, Luthando. What are the typical ways in which the financial system has been broken in both of your experiences, and how do they affect the day-to-day lives of a consumer?
I think let's start with the question that speaks to why consumers would find themselves in broken systems. I think you've highlighted quite nicely in your introductions to say high inflation, high interest rates. People have so much debt on that they kind of have to deal with as households. And so they are pressed to try and make the best out of the income levels that they've got, and they do get sucked into systems that promise high returns without the risk. And I think if anyone is listening, the takeaway from today's conversation, from my point of view, from an investment strategy point of view, is if it sounds too good to be true, trust that it is. And if I answer your question directly around what are some of the ways in which the financial system does break, in the eyes of consumers, that is, I think one, definitely Ponzi schemes is a big one. This is when you are invited into a scheme or a WhatsApp group where you are promised, certain levels of returns without any risk. But actually, nothing is really being sold here. There is no valuation of anything that's concrete that should help the contribution you've put in to get into the WhatsApp group grow. But the only growth comes into recruiting more people, and the money they inject into the WhatsApp group is what is used to pay out existing people. And that's not a true investment strategy. That is a pure Ponzi scheme. And we need to avoid those kinds of situations. The other is investing through unregistered investment companies. As far as you can, please try and stick with investment companies that are reputable, that have a registered FSP number. So they are a registered financial service provider with the FSCA. So if you Google the name of the company, it should be followed shortly with a FSP registration number linked to the FSCA. If not, do not join or invest on that platform. The other one that I see quite frequently is these Forex traders, Bitcoin traders, that people run into on social media, maybe Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and they look like they're very successful. If they cannot supply you a broker code that is also linked to the FSCA, and their trading platform that they use is also not linked to the FSCA, do not trust that broker.
Okay. And talking about Ponzi schemes, sure, I think I've been a victim a couple of times, and a lot of people, I would believe, maybe 60%, maybe 50%, have tried it and seen that if it works for you, fantastic. But if you're one of those people that then join the bandwagon a bit later, you become a victim. Now, I want to come to you, Lebogang. You are a financial crime compliance specialist. What has been your experience? What have you noticed to be more prevalent?
It's funny when you say financial crime compliance specialist. I was at a conference the other time, Lutando, and they said financial crime compliance is the new cool kid in town. Given that we are grey listed, a lot of chat is around financial crime and what the trends are. But Bertha, it's more important for me to talk to it from an economic imperative perspective. I like the fact that Lutando spoke to it in practicality. Now, when we talk about where does it actually come from, financial crime, and how does it actually even affect the legal entities or companies and then the consumer thereof. So let me maybe start talking about why we're even having this conversation. Being it an economic imperative, Bertha, you won't believe it. About 2 to 5% of the money that is actually laundered or around financial crime, that's used around financial crime, is actually part of the GDP. So that simply means that the money that is laundered is actually brought back into the economy, and that distorts everything that we have in the economy, and hence the grey listing that we have. So what we're really seeing from an economic point of view and looking at companies is that we've got a lot of companies that are used as vehicles to launder money. So by that, we mean they actually clean up. So you've got your banks that are used for cleaning up. You've got investment companies. I mean, just ask yourself a simple question. If somebody has done crime, where do they actually invest that money? That's the money that go back into the economy. So that's one thing that we need to understand, that it doesn't work in isolation from a consumer perspective, but it's also those companies that suffer. But you understanding why your company or why your bank will call you for an identity document or proof of address, that means that you're part of the collective of curbing financial crime, and it goes back to just understanding. But let's go back to individuals and touching on Ponzi schemes as well. There's a lot of terms that a lot of financial crime compliance specialists talk about, but let's bring it down to what it really means, right? So, for instance, you'll get what we call smishing, which is SMS. I think a lot of people do get SMSs that just say, you've got a granny that died or an aunt that died, and now you've got an inheritance. And I'm like, hey, I'm South African. There's nobody outside that I know. So those are kind of the trends that we're really seeing. But it doesn't only end there. It's emails that we're seeing. It's phone calls that we're seeing. And some of them are even purporting to be authorities. There's actually a recent scam that I saw of a scammer actually purporting to be an authority, the Financial Intelligence Center. So then you ask yourself, who do you then trust? So it goes beyond just looking at it from a consumer perspective, but let's look at it at what companies are going through and how do I aid positively in making sure that we curb financial crime. Yeah.
And as consumers, how do we fall for these types of crimes? I know you've just highlighted the fact that by responding or answering back, but how can you avoid it? Like, for instance, if someone calls you and say, listen, I'm from a mobile service provider, and you do use that service provider, and then they say, no, there's a deal, and you've just been selected as one of those people, please give us all your details, and it sounds so authentic.
Absolutely. Bertha, these people use what we call social engineering, meaning it actually manipulates you. They know you to an extent. I mean, if you know that I'm a financial crime compliance specialist, I speak about it, speak at conferences, people would actually purport to be people that actually know you. No label, from this conference that you were talking to, there's a person that would like you to talk to another conference. Please give you a pen or something like that, something that really looks legit. But the problem is we're very gullible, Bertha. I think Lutando spoke about there are times where we really need money. There are times where, let's talk about tax season, for instance. A lot of people would get those smishing or SMSs that are very vicious, that say that, hey, you've got a refund. Who doesn't want a refund, Bertha, right? So the likes of Lebagangs are telling everyone about this, but we are gullible. We need that money. We're not saving enough. So this is actually a circle that we should be talking about. But one thing I always tell people is that you really need to interrogate. I mean, do entertain the call, definitely. If you're going to talk to someone, they ask you or they tell you, I'm from the FIC or I'm from the bank, do talk to them. But once they start asking you things like your PINs, things that your bank would ideally not ask you, then you need to know that is definitely good to be true. So do your research as well.
And we're going to take a break. But before we take a break, if you would like to contribute, maybe you want to ask questions, my guests are in the studio. You can always give us a call, 086 000 2032. Or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note, make it crisp, audible. That's 061 410 410 And I've got Lutando Mzilikazi, founder of Money Views and Inland Regional Manager of an investment management, as well as Lebogang Tobagale, financial crime compliance specialist. Just asking, have you experienced or have you been duped before? And it sounded just so legit and you fell for it. What was your reaction? What was then, your way forward in terms of rectifying or figuring out how to get yourself out of it? Sharing, always important, because you never know what you say today may help another person to avoid the same situation. For now, let's cross over to Ondela for news, and then we'll be back and we'll continue with our conversation. And we'll also take your voice notes when we get to that side of the hour. Thank you, Bertha. On the news headlines, Parliament has announced the names of MPs who will serve on the ad hoc committee that will look into matters of national security. Gauteng Police Commissioner Tommy Mtombeni says they are working closely with their counterparts in KwaZulu-Natal to dismantle criminal syndicates operating in the two provinces. And the Democratic Alliance in Gauteng says the city of Johannesburg is unlikely to be ready for the much anticipated G20 summit. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
All things money, hashtag July Savings Month. What happens when the financial system breaks? And we're talking about how you can avoid cybercrime. I mean, we have increasing pressure on consumers. I mean, we have inflation. A lot is just going on. And I don't think there's anyone, maybe there are people who can keep tab of what is really happening financially. Something that has been troubling me for a while, and I don't seem to get a very clear answer to it, where you continuously service debt. You are so drowned in debt, and it's a never-ending story. So giving you an example, you owe on your credit card, and you're hoping that you're going to pay off your credit card, but maybe you are on 25% of interest of whatever it is that you've utilized that is not yours, that belongs to the bank. It's just this chain that is never ending. But that subject, let's shift it. I've got this particular one, since we're talking about crime at the moment, I think let's delve into it a little bit more deeper. Living in a digital world and the rise of social media. What are some of the trends that may lead up to financial crimes that we are not aware of? Lebogang.
Bertha, we're struggling. Even as compliance officers, I mean, we have to do what we call customer due diligence. So before a customer comes in, any client, we need to be vetting them, right? For vetting, that means you need to get a person's ID number to verify them and the likes. Sometimes we don't even know if we're working with the right information or documents, because documents are actually falsified, fraudulent. But now when you're talking to social media, we deal with a lot of what we call deep fakes. So a deep fake is someone who would actually talk like me. Well, not obviously walk like me, but talk like me. They mimic your voice. So these kind of people actually use the likes of AI and machine learning to mimic you. And this is why we're finding a lot of authorities, believe it or not, a lot of supervisors being mimicked in the social media to say, in fact, the one from the FIC literally said that you need to pay a certain money, and this is coming from the authority for you to release your credit, which didn't make sense at all. So there is quite a number of those. It can come from an image, it can come from an audio, it can come from video. We've seen quite a number of those. But now from a compliance perspective, it's difficult for us to verify whether we're dealing with the right person if there's so much information out there in social media that is purporting to be somebody else. It is something that we need to educate about, but it's very dangerous for us to be dealing with as well.
Is there a way to mitigate all this that is happening? I mean, just the introduction of AI. It's like we're in a tumble dryer, never ending. Is there any way to mitigate?
At this point, you would never know, honestly. I mean, it came at a very fast pace. And I always tell people that even if, as financial crime compliance people, you know what trends are coming, but then AI is always fast when it comes to changing certain things. We need to educate ourselves, like I said, but I don't think at this point there is any way of mitigating. What I do advise a lot in businesses is for us to have countermeasures. So, for instance, if you are going to say, I'll use an ID, don't just take it at face value. You need to be verifying it against other tools, even though it's not, AI. But at this point, I worry myself on it, but you need to be vetting exactly who you're talking to. I mean, you can't just have an authority telling you that you need to pay money to their account for them to release a loan. That already sounds very dodgy, right? We need to be asking these questions. The problem with us is that we just take things at face value and take it as it is. But yeah, it is a big problem.
Life was simpler, guys.
It was.
Life was simpler.
Yeah.
Now it's just more complicated.
Yeah.
So with ever-changing regulations, how does one combine financial regulations with the protection of information in view of ensuring all consumers are protected?
Lutanda, I'll take a stab at it and obviously talk from a financial crime perspective. I know there's, like I said, given that we are grey listed, there is a lot of education around just the regulation of financial crime, anti-money laundering, but also taking into account that we do have BOPIA, obviously, that does protect the information. But it's always important to go, if you're in a company, make sure that you always address it with your compliance officer before you do anything. And as a layman, as a consumer, ask questions. When your bank actually calls you and says, I need an update on your proof of address, ask for what purposes. They will be saying it is for FIC purposes, obviously, but you need to be asking why. Why are you doing with that information? And how's that aiding, really? And also, again, social media. The likes of your FIC does have a lot of platforms there in educating people about what regulations is coming together, what it is that they need to do. So you just need to educate yourself around it. But as a normal consumer, obviously, you can't know everything around regulation. So ask, and ask. Yeah.
I think three things for me, Bertha, very quickly. And this is more directed to the consumer listening. The first thing is that whether you get instigated via email, WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, or SMS, as Lebogang spoke to earlier, do not participate in any transactions where you are being solicited. Whoever gave anyone the right to give free money? That is your first hint to say that there's something terribly wrong. The second is those high return type structures that are unclear, that don't make sense, but it seems like it's a get rich quick type situation, or if it's a property scam or a property syndicate, if the price of the property just doesn't make sense, or you don't get any kind of validation of the existence of the property, there's a problem. The last point that I'd like to reiterate is something that Lebogang mentioned earlier, and she was speaking about the increased documentation requirements around getting into the financial space. So if you want to open up an investment account with a reputable company, they'll ask you for a number of documents. That's what we call KYC, so know your clients. Please do not get irritated with us. In that process, we're trying to verify if it's really you. We'll do the reverse when the money is trying to leave, because you have no idea how many fraudulent activity happens at the point at which someone tries to invest and then they're trying to take the money out. Scammers come in and intercede at the point at which you are ready to withdraw, or they withdraw on your behalf. And we as registered investment companies think it's you. So the information, the documents that you send to us up front helps us block that later on. So please don't get irritated with us. I mean, the other day we had a situation where an advisor was calling and saying that they're with a client currently right now, but the client can't sign for some reason or the other, but they're trying to instigate a withdrawal. All to find out when one of my team members actually did a background check as to verify whether this client is the real client. Home Affairs actually declared the client dead. So the advisor wasn't a real financial advisor. He had interceded a transaction between the advisor and the dead client. So please, when we ask for these KYC documents, that's like your bank statement, that's your ID number and the actual document, please cooperate with us. We are trying to protect you.
So in a case where you find that you're a victim, what is your first point of call? Because, in any other system, you'd say, maybe let me call the police. You first of all, of course, call your bank. And then maybe it is made a fraud case. What happens? What should you do that is so important? Because we don't want to just assume that, you just call your fraud department to say, there's been fraud.
That is definitely a criminal case. So SAPS is definitely number one. Number two is advising the investment company involved. That's if there is a registered investment company, because as I said earlier, some of the scams are actually facilitated by unregistered, unreal investment companies. The other person is telling your financial advisor, if you have one, which goes back to the start of this entire July Savings Month series, where we've been talking about the importance of having a financial advisor. If you had a financial advisor, you're unlikely to fall in a situation where you're in such financial need that you fall into these traps of scams. But also, secondly, a lot of your documentation would be protected by the financial advisor if he is a good one. And lastly, I think advising your bank as well, especially if there are bank details that have been compromised in the entire transaction. So it's definitely SAPS, the regulated and registered investment company, it's your financial advisor, and it's also your bank.
Okay, we're going to take a small break. When we come back, we'll take your voice notes. If you send us text, we're readily available to respond. Give us a call on 086 000 2032. That's our direct line. And our WhatsApp line is 061 410 410 We'll be back.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, in collaboration with the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, Gauteng Provincial Government, Standard Bank, South Africa and Absa Bank invites you to the Empower Her Market, celebrating women's economic power on the 1st of August 2025 at the Sandton Convention Centre under the theme Building Resilient Economies for All, Women Leading the Future of Trade. Tune into The Talking Point as we shine a spotlight on women entrepreneurs as powerful drivers of South Africa's economy. Rikaofela basadi.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
And in the studio, I've got Lutando Mzilikazi as well as Lebogang Tobagale. And Lebogang is Financial Crime Compliance Specialist. And Lutando, as per usual, we've been running a series of July Savings Month. And she is founder of Money Views and Inland Regional Manager of an Investment Management. And we're talking about, what happens in the banking system. Just before we took a break, when it comes to... I know we spoke about the Ponzi schemes, right? How do I know or how do I play a role when it comes to money laundering? So let's say, for instance, hypothetically, someone gives me a stash of US dollars or pounds, 10,000. Okay, hang on to my 10,000, change them, slowly on the market. Is that laundering?
one of the first things we would ask as a regulated and registered investment company, when you're giving us your money, we would ask, what is the source of these funds? And beyond that, we'll also ask you proof of source of the funds. And so if you're accepting funds on behalf of someone, whether you're a financial advisor or you're a broker or you're a friend, you're running a project on a private equity market, and you're not asking those questions, you are absolutely potentially participating in this economy of money laundering completely.
Absolutely. And remember, from a money laundering perspective, you need a house, literally, or a company or a person where you can layer or place that money in. So do not be that vehicle without asking the right questions exactly as to where are you getting the money from. And this is why KYC, for instance, or customer due diligence is something that companies that are right will do right up front so that you're not the wrong person to be dealing with. But it can't happen in isolation. That's the whole point. They need someone to help them. It has to be an organized crime for that to actually be successful.
So here's another one. So in a scenario where the financial system experiences significant disruption, right? What then happens? How would the landscape of money? What happens there? In terms of, I don't know how to put it. How would the landscape for money laundering, terrorist financing, and other illicit financial flows actually change?
So essentially, one is asking, but so what? So somebody has stolen money, they're bringing it to me, or I'm part of a criminal activity. How does this affect the economy, right? So money laundering, when you define it very nicely to someone who doesn't do it or who doesn't do compliance on it on a day-to-day basis, like I said, you need to have an illicit fund, right, that is actually placed through what we call accountable institutions or your bank or your investment, right? Then it is integrated. So the part where the money is actually washed as though it is not illicit funds. So you can invest it, you can put an investment then to an investment company, then you take out the money and integrate it back into the economy as though it is correct, right? Or it is not illicit. So the point of integration from the washed system back into the economy, that's what hammers the economy, because you have a lot of illicit flows of money that are now in the economy, but you can't even pinpoint which ones are illicit and which ones are not illicit. It harms us. You've got money that you can't even, I remember the National Treasury Minister also said that there's a lot of illicit flows that goes outside and inside that South Africa, and we can't pinpoint which ones are those. Right at the beginning of my introduction, I did say that all those illicit funds become about 2 to 5% of the total GDP, meaning that some of that investment, some of that money is invested back into the economy, and it's not right. It's just not the way the economy grows. It's a vicious cycle.
It is a vicious cycle.
Yeah. You know, Bertha, as Lebo was talking, I'm reminded of a story that I learned of when I started in the industry. There's a lot of criminals that are using young girls as a way to wash their illegal money. So they'll promise you a portion of the money and they'll use your bank account that is started in your own name. Yes. So that if anything illegal comes out of it, you are the one. You are the criminal because everything is in your name. So my plea today as a young person myself is every young girl who is involved in this, because their profit is that they get a portion of the money. Always ask yourself, is participating in this scheme worth the lifetime of criminal record I would have? Because that criminal who's roping you in can disappear anytime and they can get involved in another kind of crime because their job is ongoing. But if you ever want to work in the structured, employable industry in South Africa, you will struggle to do that for the rest of your life because of that one decision.
Let me take one voice note. I've got a voice note that has just come in.
Good afternoon. I would like to know what happens in a case where you reported a crime to the police and they're the ones who are letting you down. Like you've been scammed through the bank app and the police, they're the only ones who can be given information by the banks. And the case is open, and the police all of a sudden they saying they're not investigating anymore. Thank you.
Okay. Your response.
Yeah. So part of the reason why we are grey listed as a country is because of the lack of prosecution or the right prosecution in South Africa. If you remember, before we were actually told that we have now ticked off all the action items for us to be off the grey list by October, the only 2 remaining items that we had was exactly what you're talking about, the prosecution. So, and unfortunately, we do live in a country that is has corrupt officials. We know that as a fact. But procedurally so, one should follow that procedure of reporting, irrespective, so that you've got a defense. And I'm highlighting the defense because if this is then investigated at some point, you've got a defense to say that, but I reported my part. What happens thereafter, I wouldn't know. And it's just like us with companies or accountable institutions. There's a lot of things that we do see happening and we do report to the FIC, the Financial Intelligence Center. We don't really know what happens to that intelligence. However, if it does come to a point where we investigate it by any chance, then we do form a defense that we've done our part at that point. Yeah. Lutando? Yeah.
And I think just to reiterate with Uput, because he says the case has already been opened. So there's a case number. He can take that case number and report it to the bank's fraud department. Whichever bank that is, the fraud department has their own process as well. And I've seen a lot of people get their refunds reinstated or get their money back into their bank account where there is a case number and the bank does their own internal investigation, because sometimes the bank has actually let those funds go incorrectly. So those things do happen. So if that is the case here, then the refund will happen or the money will be reinstated. But if not, and the fault is yours, that's where the fraud department or any other department in the bank cannot do anything at all.
I'm looking at my WhatsApps are now coming and I've just run out of time. For more information, where do we go?
Moneyviews_SA, TikTok, Instagram, and Lutando Mzilikazi on LinkedIn and Facebook. And Lebukhang, if you're keen to chat to her as well, you can go to my LinkedIn or Facebook page or through my TikTok and Instagram, which is moneyviews_SA, and I'll connect you.
Well, this is going to continue. This series is absolutely pivotal. We need to know how to handle our finances. Lutando Mzilikazi, founder of Money Views and Inland Regional Manager of an Investment Management, and Lebogang Tobagale, Financial Crime Compliance Specialist, helping us unpack how to handle our finances.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
These are the weekend shows on SAFM. Music of Africa with Shayla Ndikumana. The Weekend View with Bongiwe Zwane. The Jet Set Breakfast with Michelle Constant. Seasons with Khomotso KG Mweketsi. The Soundtrack of Your Life with Ernest Pillay. Weekend Soundowner Classics with Kutlwano Masote. Spotlight with Zai Khan. The Weekend with John Kherika. Shifting Your Lens with Bertha Charuma. This is SAFM. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
The Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, in collaboration with the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, Gauteng Provincial Government, Standard Bank, South Africa and Absa Bank, invites you to the Empower Her Market, celebrating women's economic power on the 1st of August 2025 at the Sandton Convention Centre, under the theme Building Resilient Economies for All, Women Leading the Future of Trade. Tune into The Talking Point as we shine a spotlight on women entrepreneurs as powerful drivers of South Africa's economy.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Well, coming up next, stages, pages, screens and more. So, Standard Bank, Joy of Jazz, returning this September with yet another amazing lineup. And the 26th edition of the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz is coming back at the Sandton Convention Centre, showcasing over 50 acts over 3 days and celebrating a spirit of jazz that resonates deeply in South Africa. As SAFM will be sharing, we shall be announcing actually our partnership with the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival. Next week, Wednesday, this year, the Dipala stage will be the SAFM stage with exciting performances. So something to look forward to. But to help us, just to give you a little bit of tea of what's coming at the 26th edition of Standard Bank Joy of Jazz, I've got Desiree Poe, head of Standard Bank sponsorship. Good to have you on the show.
Good afternoon, Bertha, and I'm happy to be on your show. Very exciting to be in partnership with yourselves.
So Standard Bank bringing us the 26th edition of Joy of Jazz, which has grown from 2,000 to over 36,000 attendees. That is huge. What has this journey meant for Standard Bank as a long-time partner?
Sure. When you put it like that, you bring it into a good perspective. When you imagine that we've been as champion of the arts and sponsored the arts in general for more than 40 years. And this year marks 26 years of the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. I think it's a testament to the results of long-term investing in the arts. It's proof that emboldens us and should hopefully encourage the public to also provide long-term support. Through the sponsorship, we've made significant contributions to grow the appreciation of jazz through other sponsorships that we have in the portfolio, which I'll speak to a little bit later.
And why is long-term investment in the jazz talent pipeline so important for Standard Bank's arts sponsorship strategy? I mean, we've seen the launch of the Jazz for Young People, which took place this past weekend.
Yeah, I think, it's embedded essentially in who we are as a brand. We always live close and very true to our purpose. We say that Africa is our home and we drive her growth. It is a very, very important that in what we invest, we grow and nurture talent. And we also do believe that as the African continent, we have quite a significant percentage of our population who are youth, and they are our future at the end of the day, and we need to ensure that we provide a pathway for them. As we say in Sesotho, meaning to bend the sapling while it's young. This is our opportunity to nurture, to give platforms for skills development, for growth in skills that are not just of a performance nature, but behind the scenes. Things such as event coordination, technical, the works. These are the skill sets that are required to retain the entertainment industry at its peak and with the best, the most highly qualified talent. So for us, the second edition of Jazz for Young People is another proof point that, we are growing audiences as Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. We are teaching jazz appreciation. More young people are getting exposed. So you're guaranteeing a future audience and as well as participants in this special and well-appreciated genre.
And partnerships, collaborations, how do they help amplify the impact of the festival?
Collaborations, especially if you consider that it's bringing together different skill sets. Each of us bring an audience, that helps elevate the visibility of the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. If I may make an example of yourselves as a radio station, a wonderful platform where we have conversations. You help share information. You help educate and invite new audiences into the space. So, in terms of the festival production, from a Joy of Jazz events and content and team music man perspective, they bring in the technical expertise and their networks to bring talent. I mean, that is renowned talent into South Africa, an opportunity that is granted to South African jazz lovers to experience artists that they wouldn't otherwise be able to access, all under one roof, over 3 days, across 4 stages, of which one is the Pala, and that you will be responsible for.
Yep. And for more information?
I would say our handles, from a festival perspective, website www.joyofjazz.co.za, and social media handles that follow the same naming conventions at Joy of Jazz SA. And of course, on our end, it's at Standard Bank Arts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and standardbank.com/sponsorship. And just one last piece of information I'd like to share with you, please. Ticketing. Ticketing is at Ticketmaster, and Standard Bank customers receive a discount on ticket purchases.
Lovely. Desiree Poe, thank you for chatting to us, head of Standard Bank sponsorship. It's just gone after 2 and it's time for news. Thank you, Bertha. On the top stories, members of ad hoc committee on national security matters announced and Gauteng and KZN collaborate to dismantle criminal syndicates. For SAFM News, I'm Wandelambana, and a very good day. Parliament has announced the names of MPs who will serve on the ad hoc committee that will look into matters of national security. Earlier this month, the National Assembly approved a motion that sets up the ad hoc committee after allegations by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Sailin Merrington reports.
The committee will consist of 11 members from all parties in a proportionate manner. The ANC will have 4 full-time and 1 alternative member. The DA will have 2 full-time and 2 alternative members. MK will have 2 full-time and 1 alternative member. The EFF will have 1 full-time and 1 alternative member, and IFP and PA will get 1 member each. Other parties represented are Action SA and the Freedom Front Plus. Julius Malema from the EFF is the only party leader serving on the committee. As adopted by the House, the ad hoc committee will sit for 90 days. It is expected that the committee will start its work next week. Zaleen Merrington, SABC News, Parliament.
Eastern Cape Police have arrested a 4th suspect in connection with the murder of Chief Whip in the eMalahleni local municipality, Xoliseka Lali. He was arrested in Mthatha following an intensive police investigation. He further led investigators to a friend's house where 3 unlicensed pistols and ammunition were recovered. Lali was shot and killed at his home in Komani last week. Police spokesperson Nobuntu Kantana has not ruled out the possibility that the pistols may have been used in other crimes.
The suspect cooperated with investigators, leading them to a friend's house where 3 unlicensed pistols and ammunition were recovered. The recovered firearms will undergo ballistic testing as part of standard procedure to establish possible linkages to other crimes. A separate case of possession of unlicensed firearms and ammunition has been opened. Both the 4th suspect and his friend face these charges and will appear at the Mthatha Magistrates Court today, the 31st of July.
The Constitutional Court is about to deliver judgment on an urgent application brought by the Umkhonto weSizwe Party and its leader, Jacob Zuma. The matter was heard in the Apex Court yesterday. The MK Party and Zuma are challenging President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to place Police Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave and appoint Feroz Kachalia as acting minister. Ramaphosa also established a judicial commission of inquiry into allegations against the minister made by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi that he colluded with criminal syndicates. Gauteng Police Commissioner Tommy Mtombeni says they are working closely with their counterparts in KwaZulu-Natal to dismantle criminal syndicates operating in the 2 provinces. This follows allegations by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi of criminal syndicates having infiltrated the criminal justice system. This week, police announced that the firearms, including an AK-47 found following the murder of engineer Ahmad Swart last year, has been linked to the murders of DJ Somebody and Vintos. Mtombeni spoke to reporters during Operation Chanela in Alexandra, Johannesburg.
We had a multidisciplinary team of which were led by counterintelligence from head office, where we ultimately arrested or unmasked these people who were doing some typical type of organized crime. We ultimately arrested 4 people, including a police official, and out of those arrests we got AK-47, the magazines, the 4 pistols, of which the AK-47 currently is the talking point, which is linked with quite a number of people. So indeed, we work closely with the other province, but specifically KwaZulu-Natal.
The Democratic Alliance in Gauteng says the city of Johannesburg is unlikely to be ready for the much-anticipated G20 summit. With just 3 months left before South Africa plays host to global leaders, the DA says service delivery failures have still not been addressed. The party's Gauteng chairperson, Solim Simanga, questioned the effectiveness of the work of the Presidential Working Group and Bomb Squad, initiative set up to give the city a facelift ahead of the G20 summit in November.
As councillors, they're sitting here, they don't even know, who are members of the so-called Bomb Squad. There is no terms of reference. There is no allocation of funding. If there is any, we don't know who's responsible for what. And yet we are going to be, in a couple of months' time, be hosting one of the biggest, events. And you can see for yourself what Johannesburg look like. Street lights are still a mess. Potholes everywhere. We still have streets that are littered. We still have, streets that have water, fresh water and sewer that is flowing.
Recapping the top story, Parliament has announced the names of MPs who will serve on the ad hoc committee that will look into matters of national security. I'm Wandalambana for SAFM News. Headlines at 2:30.
Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival, where music, culture and community come alive. Tune in to Seasons with KG Mwekezi and the soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay, coming to you live from the Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. on the 2nd of August 2025. Come and vibe to Sunel musician Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zingo Malo, Trompis and many more. More than music, share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for Hard Talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
In partnership with SAFM, hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival, where music, culture and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August at Pretoria Botanical Gardens, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sun El musician Kelvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zingumalo, Trompies and more. More than music, share stories, spark change, unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat, Imbaula.
You are listening to The Full Circle. National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So 4 men arrested. That is significant. Tell us more.
You'll recall Amand Swart, who was killed in April 2024. He was killed on the 17th of April 2024. And within 3 hours after his killing, Gauteng organized crime detectives then trace his killers. They find his killers, arrest them, seize the firearms that were in their possession. That include an AK-47 and 3 pistols. We immediately seize those firearms. We take them in for ballistics and so on. During December 2024, a ballistics report comes out and says the same murder weapon that was used in the Amand Swart case was also used in the DJ Somebody case, where DJ Somebody and his 2 bodyguards were shot and killed.
Police spokesperson Brigadier Atlanta Martin.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. You are listening to The Full Circle.
And welcome to the second hour of The Full Circle. Just to recap, when we started the show, #July Savings Month, what happens when the financial system breaks? And we spoke to Lutando Mzilikazi, founder of Money Views and Inland Regional Manager on Investment Management, and Lebogang Tobagale, Financial Crime Compliance Specialist. And of course, we spoke to Desiree Poe, head of Standard Bank Sponsorship, as Standard Bank Joy of Jazz approaches, returning this September with yet another amazing lineup. Now coming up in the second hour, reaction on the Constitutional Court ruling on Makate versus Vodacom Please Call Me case. The Constitutional Court has ruled that the Supreme Court of Appeal must rehear the case. Can you imagine? Rehear the case with a differently constituted panel of judges. And I'm just imagining for this young man who's had to go into court and fight this battle for 20 plus years. It must be such a daunting task. But also, we're going to unpack a little bit on prenup warning for anyone looking to get married in South Africa. And we'll be speaking to Ntabiseng Dubazana, director at Dubazana Attorneys, when we get back.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
#Legal Corner it is, looking at 2 stories making news currently. The Constitutional Court's ruling on Makate versus Vodacom Please Call Me case, and of course, prenup warning for anyone looking to get married in South Africa. Have the dynamics of marriage changed? How do we view the legalities of getting married? So when you marry someone, what really are you thinking? And what are you intending to gain? And if you are getting into a marital status with someone and you are looking for gains, well, you could be in for a little bit of a surprise. But anyway, let me introduce my guest, Ntabiseng Dubazana, Director, Dubazana Attorneys. Good to have you on the show.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I've been following the Vodacom case for the longest. Vodacom and Please Call Me. The idea man, Nkosana Makate. Can you imagine fighting it out in yet another court battle after the Constitutional Court referred the ongoing matter back to Supreme Court of Appeal? So apparently, according to the Apex Court, the SCA made several errors in its latest judgment to award Makate billions in compensation, which has now been set aside. Yep. Acting Deputy Chief Justice Mbuyiseni Mhlanga says, the CSA failed to allow for a free trial and ordered that the matter go back to court for a rerun. If I were Nkosana right now, I'll be sweating bullets.
I think I'd be crying more than anything else, because it means we're going back to the drawing board. What is it that my legal team missed, or didn't miss for that matter, that is making the court decide to refer this matter back to the SCA? Because the manner in which the judgment came out is as if the judges that were hearing the matter at the SCA did not apply their minds. They did not consider everything that was before them. They did not look at all the facts and all the the paperwork, and therefore they could not and did not apply their minds, because the words that were used, if I'm not mistaken, were it is unfair territory for such an apex court to have given such a ruling that they had to now rack their brains on how to come to the decision that they came at today. So that was very interesting, because I understand that the SCA judges to say you guys were basically incompetent in the manner in which you heard and dealt with this matter.
What a blow. So what is next for both Nkosana Makate and Vodacom then?
It's technically de novo before the SCA. That's why it's a new panel of judges and everything. So it's going to be as if it's the first time the SCA will be hearing this matter. So they cannot now look at the previous ruling on what was said there. They have to hear it as if they're hearing it from scratch, so de novo. And then, they're going to take it from there, and hopefully this new panel of judges will, quote unquote, apply their mind versus the old panel that heard this matter previously.
Let's just take a small break. When we come back, what is your reaction to what has to the outcome of this particular constitutional court ruling on Makate versus Vodacom Please Call Me case? Big twist. What is your take? Give us a call, 086 000 2032, and also send us your voice notes, 061 410 410 We'll be back.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Harambee Stars want to shine at night with maximum points, while Central Africans, DR Congo, eye 3 points to settle in Group A. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Experience Kenya versus Democratic Republic of the Congo this Sunday, 3 August at 2 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Tune in every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2 for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
And welcome back. I do have my guest, Ntabiseng Dubazana, Director, Dubazana Attorneys, and unpacking the Constitutional Court's ruling on Makate versus Vodacom Please Call Me case, as well as prenup warning for anyone looking to get married in South Africa. Welcome back, Ntabiseng. So,
yes, ma'am.
What precedence does this set in the case that we're talking about, the Constitutional Court's ruling on Makate versus Vodacom? What precedence does this set for employees' inventions, innovations in their organizations?
Whatever agreement or, invention, like you said, you're going to come across or you're going to put for your company, do it in terms. Make sure there's an NDA first that is signed. Don't just go because there's what you believe is a trust relationship between yourself and your employer. Make sure that if you're going to pitch this to them, that it is covered by a contract with an NDA, where in that NDA, you're specific to say that there's not going to be disclosure of this to any third party. We are not going to discuss it with anyone else apart from myself. and you guys, that if you take it out, then there's going to be consequences, etc., etc. Protect your work, your information, do copyright. Make sure that all of these things are dealt with before you go and be the nice person to say you're assisting your employer. Because otherwise you may find yourself in 2 decades worth of litigation at this rate.
It's just so unfortunate. I mean, you know, initial offer for compensation was around about 50 million or 47 million.
Yeah,
Around about
47 million.
And he basically says he believes he should be given 10 billion.
Yes.
Like 50 million is like a drop in the ocean in comparison to what he is expecting. But then let's put that aside. Let's come now to prenup warning for anyone looking to get married in South Africa. Legal experts have warned couples looking to get married in South Africa that their prenups may no longer be the absolute final say in matters of divorce or death when new laws come into effect. What does this mean?
All right. So it's actually been happening. I think it's just now being codified, or rather, should I say, being put into an actual legislation. So in our marital system, we have 3 marital regimes: the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act, it is the Marriages Act, and then and civil union, right? So in the Marriage Act, there is marriage in community of property and out of community of property with the option of accrue or without. So the main issue here is being married out of community of property without the accrue system being applied to your marriage, and also being married out of community of property, and that's that no contract attached to it. There has been recent case law that has been decided. There is one that declares, I think it's Section 7 of the Divorce Act, to be unconstitutional, which deals with the separation of the assets that have been dealt with within the marriage. And also there is one wherein the lady was married out of community of property, and then she was claiming 50% of her husband's estate, and then he was saying, but why? Because we already married out of community of property, there's no way. And then the court granted her 30%. Last I checked, it's on appeal. I haven't seen if there's any update in that regard. Now, that is the part of some of the cases, rather, that have been dealt with in terms of these particular marriage regimes. So what the courts are saying, they're saying that it is unfair on the person which is mostly women, who contributed non-financially to the marriage, to walk out of the marriage without anything. That is the basis of why the changes are going to be applied. So should this bill pass and be enacted as law, it doesn't nullify the ANC. It just says that it is not the final word. Whereas in the past, it used to be if you're married with your ANC or without the ANC and you're married out of community of property, then it means that's the final word. That's how we deal with your estate. Whether your marriage is ending by death or divorce, we apply that regime as is. But now it's going to give the court the discretion to decide whether or not, based on the merits of each case, that is, whether you are entitled to something from the marriage.
I think let's take a couple of voice notes that we received earlier on, so that we'll give it another minute. This is quite complicated, where, you know, if you got married 10 years ago and all of a sudden the system changes. Unless if it changes to your favor, then that's a different story. But if it changes to a stage where you are in the negative, that must be devastating.
Yes, 100%. Because here's the thing. It's not like the people that entered into this contract were minors. It is not like the people that entered into this contract didn't know the implications thereof of being in this kind of contract. So therefore, if I am the party that ends up making more money as a result of the work that I do or the businesses I run, whatever the case may be, then why is it when you knew there is potential for me to be making that kind of money, and therefore you will not be you're not going to get access to that money, why then, when it's there and it's time for us to part ways, you now want a slice of it? You knew what you were doing. So that is where I think the argument against making this bill an actual act may be coming from. And then the inverse of that is that most of the time, it will be the male, the man, who would be the one out there making the money, and then the wife is at home with the kids and cleaning and cooking, blah, 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 blah. And that is the aspect in which the courts now look at it, because they look at it at a point of a previously disadvantaged individual. So women in the past were obviously previously disadvantaged. I mean, for crying out loud, when it comes to the law of primogeniture, it only changed in 2004. That's 21 years ago, wherein women were not allowed to inherit. Black women were not allowed to inherit from their deceased husband estate. It would go straight to the brothers, etc. So much so that to this day, that some families still believe that if their brother dies, his things are their things and the wife has no entitlement to it. So we understand that it's trying to balance out the inequalities of the past on women, but also now the question is it justifiable in terms of our constitution? How are we going to balance the man's rights versus the woman's rights? Or in modern times, when it's the woman that's making more money and then the man is now the one who's going to get money, are we still saying that there's inequality there? How are we going to justify it? It will be interesting to hear the debate with regard to this.
Absolutely. Ntabiseng Dubazana, Director, Dubazana Attorneys. For more info, where do we go?
You can send us an email on info@dubazanaattorneys.co.za. Otherwise, you can call us on 087-265-8010 or send us a WhatsApp on 079-654-7523.
Thank you so much for making time. It's now past. Ondela is on standby with the news. Thank you, Bertha. On the news headlines, the Constitutional Court has dismissed the application brought by the Umkhonto weSizwe Party and its leader, Jacob Zuma. They challenged President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to place Police Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave and appoint Feroz Kachalia as acting minister. Parliament has announced the names of MPs who will serve on the ad hoc committee that will look into matters of national security. And the South African Police Service says it has paid billions of rands in civil claims due to police action during the 2023-24 financial year. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 1 kg Kellogg's Cornflakes for $69.99 plus 150 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 1 kg Stork Country Spread Tub for $44.99 plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 6 August 2025 while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Taifa Stars have a big task to open the curtain with victory for East Africans. But the Stallions want the final whistle to elevate them to the summit in Group B. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Tanzania versus Burkina Faso this Saturday, 2 August at 7 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Asibambisane Zini na zini Ayikhomaneni Haritsbarani Say and say Side by side
Good afternoon and welcome to Side by Side, brought to you by the National Department of Health, Ilifa Labantwana, and the SABC Education. Today we're talking about kangaroo mother care, a simple yet powerful method where a baby is held skin to skin on their caregiver's chest. On our drama episode yesterday, we heard from Joyce, who shared how this practice not only helps premature and low birth weight babies, but also strengthens the bond between caregiver and child, encourages breastfeeding, and also supports emotional development. Now, to help us understand kangaroo mother care even more deeply on how it works, who it's for, and how families can make it a part of their baby's care, we are joined by Mrs. Kaukanani Hilda Maloyi from St. Elias Maloyi Private Clinic. She brings a wealth of experience and passion in maternal and newborn care. Mrs. Maloyi, thank you so much for joining us today. To begin with, can you please explain to our listeners what exactly is kangaroo mother care?
Thank you. It's a method of holding your baby to your chest. Your baby wear only a diaper and possible a hat and socks to help stay warm. They rest against your bare chest, allowing for skin-to-skin contact. This type of touch is a special experience that can help you and your baby bond. It also has a medical benefit, particularly for babies with low birth weight or babies born preterm. You can do kangaroo care in the hospital, including in the neonatal intensive care unit, as well as at home. How long do you hold your baby in each session is up to you and varies depending on your situation and your baby's medical needs. Your baby's care team can offer specific guidance on how soon after birth to begin kangaroo care and how long each session should be.
Miss Maloyi, and how does a parent actually do kangaroo care? What steps should they follow to make sure it's done safely and effectively?
Your nurse will help you to get started with kangaroo care in the hospital. Each session can vary in length, but researchers generally advise longer sessions for more than benefits. For example, one study shows that a 2-hour session is more beneficial than 1 hour session when performed at least 7 days in a row. Your care team can tell you more about what's best for your baby. Here are a few basic tips for getting started. You should dress comfortably. There are no strict guidelines for what to wear, but you should wear something that you can easily open because your baby will rest against your bare chest. You'll also need to remove your bra if you wear one. You should use a hospital gown that opens in front if you'd like. Place your baby on your chest. Your baby should be in an upright position with their head resting to one side against your chest. Your baby will typically wear only a diaper, hat, and socks. The hat and socks help keep your baby warm and cover your baby. Once you are settled skin to skin, drape a blanket over your baby's back. Keep your baby warm and comfortable while snuggled against your chest. Your care provider may suggest using a wrap to secure your baby against your chest. Relax together. Try and relax as you hold your baby. Remember to breathe normally. This is a great time to let your baby rest and relax too. Allow your baby to snuggle in and fall asleep. Avoid playing with your baby. Plan on multiple sessions. Your care team will tell you about the ideal schedule for you and your baby. Ask if anything is unclear.
While kangaroo mother care has many benefits, are there certain things that parents should avoid when doing it?
To make kangaroo care safe and comfortable for your baby, you should put away phones or other electronic devices. This can distract your focus away from your baby. Focusing on your baby is important, or bonding is also for keeping your baby safe as you hold them. Make sure your skin is clean and healthy. Don't do kangaroo care if you have a rash, open cuts, or cold sores. Clean your skin beforehand and don't apply any perfumes or lotions.
When some people hear the word kangaroo mother care, they'd think this is something that's only done by the mother. Can fathers and other family members also do kangaroo care?
Yes, absolutely. Kangaroo care is for everyone who loves and cares for the baby, not just mom. Fathers, grandparents, aunties, and even older siblings can do it. The key is warm, safe skin-to-skin contact. Fathers who do kangaroo care also report feeling more connected and confident in caring for their babies.
Is kangaroo care only for premature babies, or can full-term babies benefit too?
Kangaroo care is beneficial for all babies, not just those born early. Full-term babies also love the warmth, safety, and closeness. It calms them, helps with sleep, and support breastfeeding. Even if your baby is healthy and strong, kangaroo care can still deepen your bond and create a strong emotional foundation.
How long should a typical kangaroo care session last, and how often should parents do it?
The longer and more frequent, the better. Experts recommended at least 1 to 2 hours per session, at least once or twice a day. Some parents do it during nap time, after feeding, or even while watching TV. It becomes a natural part of the day. In the hospital, nurses often support long sessions, especially in the neonatal ICU.
Now, why is kangaroo mother care so important, especially for small or premature babies?
The importance of kangaroo mother care lies in its numerous benefits, which include temperature regulation. Skin-to-skin contact helps regulate the baby's body temperature, reducing the risk of hypothermia. Enhanced bonding. The close physical contact strengthens the emotional bond between the parents and the baby. Kangaroo mother care encourages breastfeeding, which provides essential nutrients and boosts the baby's immune system. It also stimulates development. The physical closeness and gentle stimulation promote neurological and psychological development. It reduces stress. Both the baby and the parents experience reduced stress levels due to the comforting and soothing effects of kangaroo mother care.
Miss Malloy, thank you so much for joining us today. In closing, what's the one thing you want every parent to know about kangaroo mother care?
Kangaroo mother care is free, safe, and powerful. You don't need fancy equipment, just your love, your time, and your body. Whether your baby is tiny or strong, born early or right on time, your warmth and presence can help them grow, thrive, and feel deeply loved. Thank you so much.
It's competition time. Side by Side continues to give away a cash prize of 1,000 Rand on our last episode of the month. All you have to do is check us out on our social media platforms on SAFM Radio, that's Facebook, X, and Instagram. Send us a direct message with your name and number, and you could be receiving a call like our lucky listener for today, who is Pamela Zondani. Let's give her a call.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Am I speaking to Pamela Zondani?
Yes, speaking.
You are speaking to someone from the Side by Side team at SAFM.
Oh, nice. Hello.
I'd like to believe that you've been listening to Side by Side every single time on SAFM.
Of course. I'm a huge fan.
You are one of our lucky listeners. But here's the catch. If you get the answer right, then you'll win yourself a cash prize of 1,000 Rand. But if you don't, unfortunately, we'll have to move to the next listener.
Oh, great. I'll cross my fingers.
Here's your question for today. What is the correct way to position a baby during kangaroo mother care?
Repeat that again.
What is the correct way to position a baby during kangaroo mother care?
The best way, I'm talking about this because I've got experience because I have one of my babies that were born prematurely. So to get it right, you must just place your baby against your chest. It must be skin to skin, where baby is only wearing a diaper, hat and socks, so that you can have that actual warmth and bonding, which supports also the temperature between you and the baby.
Pamela, I've got some good news. You won yourself a cash prize of 1,000 Rand.
What? Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Thank you, SAFM. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much, Pamela. And if you'd like to be one of our lucky listeners, don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms. That's SAFM Radio on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And thank you for listening to Side by Side, the show that supports you to give your child the best possible start in life. Brought to you by the National Department of Health, Ilifa Bantwana, and the SABC Education. Join the conversation with other caregivers on our Facebook page at Side by Side SA and look out for more great content. Join us again same time next week when we'll be talking about the best start with breastfeeding.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives. You are listening to The Full Circle.
The legendary. That song just takes you back in time. Chona. And I'm going to be joined by Sipohot Six Mabuse, award-winning musician, Spiwe Mhlambi, award-winning jazz and documentary photographer, and the big question, hashtag, who is Kipi Mwekezi? A historic photo shoot for the iconic saxophonist Kipi Mwekezi's centenary. And he would have turned 100 years on the 27th of July. To honor his life and contribution to our society, there will be a gathering of about 100 of South Africa's jazz players, veterans and youngsters for a photo shoot and jam session in memorial tribute to pioneering modern jazz Jeremiah Morolong Kipi Mwekezi, Saturday 20th September at the Market Theatre, Prinsect in Newtown, Johannesburg. Brasipo, good to have you on the show. Spiwe, good to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
That
SAFM.
song. Maybe I should start with you, Brasipo. Kipi Moeketsi. Who is Kipi Moeketsi?
Ask the whole world. Maybe if Charlie Parker was still alive, you'd have asked him who Kipi Moeketsi. Well, okay, Brakipi, as we all know, was a South African jazz musician. A lot of people, let me speak about musicians. I think most musicians will probably be in a position to identify with what that man used to do, especially the senior musicians who really imbibed from Brakipi. I mean, if we have to go through history of South African jazz, every musician who has played jazz in South Africa will always make reference to how Kipi influenced their playing. So Brakipi is that overpowering icon on the South African jazz music.
And I think let me just take a small break because I would like to get into what defined his contribution to jazz and our music and our culture as a whole. I still remember this song when it played either on Saturday or Sunday. You just knew that there was some form of peace in the household. That is my taking and my experience of, Brakipi Moeketsi. But let's take a small break. We'll be back.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Health Professions Council of South Africa, HPCSA, has extended its call for nominations of suitable persons to serve on the HPCSA professional boards. All practitioners actively registered with the HPCSA may be nominated. Deadline for submissions is 31 July 2025. For more details, visit the HPCSA website, hpcsa.co.za.
This Mandela Month, Nelson Mandela once said,
"We have traveled a long journey. We have fought for peace and reconciliation, for social justice, for all men, women, and children."
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
It's season 2. And the stakes are even higher. This time, South Africa's favorite stars are back at the briefcase, playing for charities close to home and close to their heart. Big names, big hearts, big deals. Don't miss big deals. Don't miss Deal or No Deal. Celebrity South Africa, Saturdays at 6 p.m. on SABC 1. Mzansi for sure.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
And I'm speaking to Brasipo Hotsticks Mabuse, award-winning musician, as well as Sipiwe Mahlambi, award-winning jazz and documentary photographer, and asking the question, who is Kipi Moeketsi? And we opened up our little piece before we started the conversation. That was Pet Machikiza and Kipi Moeketsi on alto sax, and the song is Chona. Welcome back. Coming to you, Spiwe. What best defines the contribution to jazz and our music and culture as a whole when we hear this big name, Kipi Moeketsi?
Yeah, that is heavy. You know, we all grew up, some of us liking jazz, listening to the vinyl that were played by our uncles, you know, and telling the stories of those musicians, their hardship, you know, the challenges that they went through. The music was beautiful, but the people that made that music faced serious challenges because it was during the time when South Africa was obviously on a back foot in apartheid.
But understanding the music, understanding the culture, the heritage, it makes one to think and then broaden up your mind a little bit on how to preserve such goodness that was left for us by such legends, So for us, it's something that it needs to go all the way beyond us. Even the image that we're trying to create right now, it will outlive us because it's a basis of where we have to interact and tell each other stories because we have to survive on the stories that we know as a legacy for us.
And Bra Hot Sticks, the influence, I'm sure, the musical journey had some influence for you. How do you remember him? How did he influence you?
Well, one of the most important things about remembering someone, first of all, it becomes a privilege to be invited by a senior musician, revered by many musicians, even at international level. I think I must have been about 18 when I met Barakipi. And then I think at the age of 22, I was invited to come and record on the same album that you've just played on Chona. And to sit next to that musician who everybody speaks about, speaks volume of one's remembering the kind of musician who Kipi was. And I was probably one of those young privileged musicians who, when we recorded at Sun Music, there were people like Brakipi, Pek Machikiza, Abdullah Ibrahim, Duke Makasi. The list of great musicians in that stable was endless. Mm-hmm. And there were people like Obra Stompi. So when you are a young musician amongst those musicians, you feel, wow, you're more privileged than many of your peers.
Absolutely.
And in my view, being close to Brakipi and learning and even recording on one's music makes it very special. And I think from that vantage point, I got to learn certain rudiments and fundamentals of advancing music through the ear and the tutoring of Brakipi.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I've been squeezed for time. There's a photo shoot that will take place Saturday, 20th of September, 12 p.m. until mid-afternoon, followed by a jam session in the Market Theatre from 3 p.m. until 5 p.m., focusing on Kipi's compositions and a repertoire. A free jam session. Register for your free ticket at quicket.co.za. That wraps up the show. Some economists believe the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee will make another repo rate. What is your take? Let's cross over to the news. But before we do, thanks to my team, I know I'm rushed. It's time for news. Thank you, Bertha, and the team on the top stories. Court dismisses MK Party application on Mkhunu, and the Reserve Bank will announce its decision on interest rates shortly. For SFM News, I am Ondalambana, and a very good afternoon. The Constitutional Court has dismissed the application brought by the Umkhonto weSizwe Party and its leader, Jacob Zuma. They challenged President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to place Police Minister Senzo Mkhunu on special leave and appoint Feroz Kachalia as acting minister. Ramaphosa also established a judicial commission of inquiry into allegations against the minister made by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi that he colluded with criminal syndicates. Constitutional Court Judge Ramaka Matopo read the unanimous judgment.
The Constitutional Court has considered the application for exclusive jurisdiction and direct access. It has concluded that the application does not engage the court's jurisdiction and no case has been made out for direct access. And the following order is made. 1. Direct access is refused. 2. Courts are reserved. 3. Reasons for this order shall be given at a later date. Thank you.
The Reserve Bank will announce its decision on interest rates shortly. The MPC cut rates by 25 basis points at the last meeting, which took the repo rate to 7.25% and the prime lending rate to 10.7%. Parliament has announced the names of MPs who will serve on the ad hoc committee that will look into matters of national security. Earlier this month, the National Assembly approved a motion that sets up the ad hoc committee after allegations by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, Celine Merrington reports.
The committee will consist of 11 members from all parties in a proportionate manner. The ANC will have 4 full-time and 1 alternative member. The DA will have 2 full-time and 2 alternative members. MK will have 2 full-time and 1 alternative member. The EFF will have 1 full-time and 1 alternative member, and IFP and PA will get 1 member each. Other parties represented are Action SA and the Freedom Front Plus. Julius Malema from the EFF is the only party leader serving on the committee. As adopted by the House, the ad hoc committee will sit for 90 days. It is expected that the committee will start its work next week. Celine Merrington, SABC News, Parliament.
A new charge of attempted murder has been added against 4 accused persons allegedly behind a viral video which shows a child being instructed to light and smoke mandrakes. The 4, which include the mother of the little boy, appeared in the Johannesburg Regional Court. They were arrested in New Clare, Johannesburg on Tuesday and face charges of attempted murder and child abuse. Their case has been postponed to Monday next week. Member of Parliament Darlene James spoke to the media outside court.
This is a case of deliberate assault and abuse. This is a case of attempted murder. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself this morning, I wonder if this child will actually be able to have access to schooling and will be able to learn, purely because we know what these types of drugs does to your brain when you start using at an early age. We will be rallying and we will be calling on everyone to support this case for this minor.
The South African Police Service says it has paid billions of rands in civil claims due to police action during the 2023-24 financial year. In a written parliamentary reply, SAPS indicated that it paid out more than 466 million rand related to arrest and detention and just over 62 million rand for incidents related to shootings. These figures reflect both settlements and court-awarded damages. Police say they acknowledge that civil claims are a strategic risk for the department. Tanzania has barred foreign nationals from owning and operating mainly small-scale businesses, sparking concern and a backlash from neighboring Kenya. The new directive prohibits them from 15 sectors, including mobile money transfers, tour guiding, small-scale mining, on-farm crop buying, beauty salons, curio shops and establishing radio and TV operations. Trade Minister Selemani Jafo explained that foreigners had increasingly become involved in the informal sector and areas better filled by Tanzanians. Recapping the top story, the Constitutional Court has dismissed the application brought by the Umkhonto weSizwe Party and its leader Jacob Zuma. I am Ondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 3:30.
Right, let's now, as we start the show, cross right over to the Reserve Bank Governor, Lesesha Kganyago, who will comment on the MPC report.
2025 was looking weak. Statistics South Africa has since reported that growth was just 0.1%, in line with our expectations. However, there was also a downward revision to earlier GDP data, along with an assumption of higher US tariffs on South Africa. This has caused us to mark down our 2025 growth forecast. That said, the recent data flow has been positive, suggesting that the economy picked up in the second quarter of the year. The economy's underlying growth trend remains low, mainly due to persistent supply-side problems, for instance, in logistics. Higher levels of uncertainty also seem to have affected output, with business and consumer confidence deteriorating in the first half of the year. However, we still expect modestly higher growth in the coming years, supported by ongoing structural reforms. The risks to the outlook, to the growth forecasts are assessed as balanced. Moving to inflation, the rand has strengthened and inflation expectations have moderated. The June CPI print showed headline inflation at 3% and core inflation at 3.9%, still at the bottom of our target range. That said, food price inflation has risen, mainly due to meat prices. Fuel prices are also falling more slowly now compared to the recent past. We therefore expect headline inflation to rise over the next few months, averaging 3.3% for the year, in line with our earlier forecasts. Prices then stabilize around the target objective over the rest of the forecast period. The risks to this outlook appear balanced. Against this backdrop, the MPC decided to reduce the policy rate by 25 basis points to 7% with effect from 1 August. The decision was unanimous. At our previous meeting, we considered a scenario with a 3% inflation objective. We did this based on analysis that our existing 3 to 6% inflation target is too high and too wide and should be reformed. With actual inflation close to 3%, we wanted to highlight the opportunity to achieve permanently lower inflation at minimal cost. For this meeting, we updated the 3% forecast. Like the projections based on the target midpoint, this showed a near-term rise in headline inflation. A key difference between the two forecasts, however, is what happens to core inflation. With a 3% objective, core inflation stays roughly where it is, which is close to 3%. Inflation expectations settle around a new normal of 3% during 2027 as stakeholders observe lower inflation and learn about the new target. Inflation also benefits from a somewhat stronger rand. In the alternative forecast with the 4.5% objective, by contrast, there is no learning and the exchange rate is more depreciated, so inflation reverts to 4.5% instead. For policy, as we showed last time, lower inflation allows for lower interest rates. In our quarterly projection model, for a 4.5% objective, rates bottom out around 7%. By contrast, the forecast for a 3% objective has roughly 5 more cuts over the medium term, taking interest rates slightly below 6%. The logic of the model is that the interest rates need to fall as inflation eases to prevent inflation-adjusted rate, or the real interest rate, from rising too much. Real rates are nonetheless temporarily higher for a 3% objective, and there is a modest growth sacrifice which helps anchor expectations at lower levels. Over the past few months, the prospect of a lower inflation target has bolstered the rand and lowered long-term borrowing costs. It is important to sustain this progress and to minimize